Did you know the Sarlacc Pit appears in 3 Battlefront games? The original having the coolest since it literally grabs nearby enemies and eats them. Although EA's version doesn't move, jumping in slides you into its stomach and chips away at the player's health, allowing jetpack users like Boba Fett to escape, which is pretty cool. Sadly though, the Sarlacc Pit in the sequel, which is on Felucia instead of Tatooine, a nod to the one introduced in The Force Unleashed, just instantly kills you upon contact, taking away what made the original so unique. Not even Jedi can escape once they've been grabbed by it. But this isn't the only monster on Tatooine. Jabba's palace has a Rancor which also can't be killed and eats everything except for droidekas, just like the Sarlacc. And although this room is in the reboot, the Rancor is already dead under some rubble. Speaking of which, there's a lot of Easter eggs and similarities for Tatooine across the Battlefront games. Both Battlefront 1s have maps showing off the barren dunes of the planet, accompanied with sand igloos mimicking Luke's house, along with the Jawa sandcrawler and the Tusken Raider village that Anakin slaughtered. In fact, while the reboot resembles the rocky plains from episode 4, the original's lighting and tall rocky structures are based off of episode 2, at times copying the same shapes. You can also land on top of them thanks to the starships, or ride the smaller version of the sand barge, since the bigger one is in the Mos Eisley hangar instead of the Millennium Falcon. Speaking of which, Mos Eisley has way too much movie references to list them all, but some of my favorites are this downed starship, which is basically synonymous with the map across all games, as well as the cantina. While the remake looks more accurate to the movies and has this cool little Easter egg that plays the cantina band, the original definitely has the nostalgia on its side, and pretty much everyone tried this at least once. Plus, if you look carefully, one of the tables is tipped over, hinting that Han definitely shot first. But seeing Mos Eisley in a hyper-realistic form is so special since no other game captures it this well, and it goes without saying that the map always has 2 suns, just in case you forgot to look up. Jabba's palace also has some neat references to the films and to other Battlefront games, like the spa room, Han Solo frozen in carbonite, and instead of 2 Tauntaun heads next to him, it's this thing. As well as Jabba's seating area, which I guess takes place after episode 6 in the reboot cause everything's already destroyed. The best part about the old map is how lost you can get with all the hidden hallways that lead you somewhere else and the multiple rooms to hide in. Also, there are glitches across all these maps, especially in the original Mos Eisley, but most are wall exploits. Some of my favorite being jumping on the front of the sand barge sinks you in and instantly kills you, but your character is stuck in this animation and occasionally has back to tank diarrhea. You can have up to 3 characters stuck before any other models sink through. But what's weird is that if you respawn before the Rancor kills you, your character also starts spewing out Bacta. And doing this as a droid causes the explode animation to stuff up completely. Not sure why this happens, but still cool. The reboot also has some wall glitches and other bugs, but because it was a live service game with frequent updates, it takes away from the novelty since it's a buggy mess anyways. Tatooine is also the planet with the most number of maps in the originals, but because Jabba's palace was DLC for Battlefront 1, it's not used in Galactic Conquest even though some planets require players to win on both maps to be captured. But because the sequel simplified Galactic Conquest by removing all planets as secondary maps, it left Jabba's palace only available in instant action. Plus, before Hunt Mode was introduced, Tusken Raiders and Gamorrean Guards were a third neutral faction on Dune Sea and Jabba's palace respectively. But you probably didn't notice that the third faction can technically win, causing both sides to lose if they capture all bases. Shout out to user Prognosis for sharing this. Plus, you can theoretically kill an infinite amount of neutral faction units since they don't have a ticket counter. So if you manage to kill enough Tuskens, you can overload the game's kill score by reaching the max value, which resets it back to 0. But the sequel introducing Hunt Mode finally allowed us to play as these factions, with the exception of the Gamorrean Guard since that Hunt Mode was cut out before release. But because Jawas aren't hostile, you might have not noticed that you can recruit them like your own teammates. And if an enemy tries to recruit your Jawa, it stays by your side, going to the player who commands it first. In fact, Jawas have much more secret interactions with game modes and the player. Find out more in this video here.